Hello, beautiful people. What's going on? It's your man, Louie Tee, here on a Thursday. This week has been a little weird, as I told you guys. Anniversary week and or weekend coming up, and this pod was supposed to be yesterday. Quiet. Truth be told, but you know how things go. So pushed it back till today, and I told you I was gonna give y'all a flashback pod, right? So it'll be a third throwback Thursday pod today. I got a story to tell. As you've probably seen from the title. I want to talk about some old dudes, new rules today, among other topics. So saddle up. LouieTeeNetwork podcast is coming at you right now. The Louie Tee Network is powered by Music Head University. Music Heads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie Tee, here with the 339th installment of the Louie Tee Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie Tee. Thank you for joining me. I want to start off the show by talking about a few topics that are non-football related. First, NBA Finals is halfway set. So the Celtics avoided the sweep. Good for them. A lot of trash was being talked prior to Game 4, particularly by Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart, who both said, hey, don't let us get one, essentially. Well, they got one. Now it's going back to Boston tonight. Gabe Vincent is out with an ankle injury, so who knows? I mean, this thing could shift. And look, as the games continue to progress, the pressure then starts to mount on the Miami Heat, because at the end of the day, the Celtics are playing with house money now. Once they got down 3-0, the series was done. No team has ever come back from a 3-0 deficit in NBA history. And so all they're doing now is just like, look, what do we got to lose? We got nothing to lose. They go out, they win Game 4, avoid the sweep. Now they're going home, right? If they can find a way to win, which it has not been easy for them to win at home this postseason, but if they can find a way to win at home, now it's 3-2, right? They're right back in the series, right? So this is a big one. If you're Miami, you want to stop the bleeding right now. Let's not make this a thing, okay? You know what I found really disturbing, though, with this whole Celtic situation? And this is the thing that people love to do in today's era. It can never just be, hey, we sucked. It's got to be somebody's fault. So what everybody wanted to do was let's blame Joe Mazzulla, right? We're down 3-0. That's the easy, low-hanging fruit in the NBA. Shit doesn't work, fire the coach. It's never the players, right? Never the players. Guys go out, shoot, 3 for 30, and 1 for 17 from 3, but it's the coach's fault. Those same shots get knocked down, and that coach is a genius. They go out and they miss those shots. They lose the game, and now this coach is to blame. I'll never understand that. It's one thing if a guy doesn't make adjustments, and I'm not saying Joe Mazzulla is innocent in that. This is his first season as a coach in the NBA. You don't think he's going to get schooled by Eric Spoelstra? You're a damn fool if you don't think that's going to take place. Spoelstra is running laps around Joe Mazzulla, but this is his first season as a head coach. Now, all of a sudden, the Celtics players are now talking about, and I don't know where this is coming from, and I don't know how these stories come out, whatever. But now, all of a sudden, the Celtics players had a problem with how Ime Udoka situation was handled. That's why they're now all of a sudden struggling. Out of my face with that bullshit, man. It's always something. How about they just sucked? How about that? How about the Heat just were better? How about Jimmy Butler was Jimmy freaking Butler? How about that? How about we just give credit to the Heat for kicking their ass for 3 games? Why does it have to be, oh, man, they never really got over the Ime Udoka situation? Joe Mazzulla stinking it up. Could he be on the chopping block after this? You just lost. That's it. Sometimes you get your ass whooped. It happens sometimes. Wasn't your night. Why do we have to blame somebody for something? It's crazy, but I'm happy that they didn't get swept, because they could have went out like the Lakers, and the Lakers didn't go out with a whimper. It's not like they got blown out by 40 like my Grizzlies did in Game 6. They fought. They just weren't good enough to beat the Denver Nuggets. So we'll see what the Celtics do in this Game 5 at home with the Heat being down their starting point guard. This is a golden opportunity to get back in the series and put all of the pressure. If the Celtics win tonight, do you know how much pressure is on the Miami Heat to win in Game 6? I would think that would be the most pressure we've seen on a team to win on their home court, and you probably got to go back. You probably got to go back to I would say the LeBron series against the no. I wonder when the Raptors won the championship with Kawhi. When they won it, I'm assuming they won it in 6. I'd probably say that you didn't want to go back to Golden State. Even without Kevin Durant, you probably didn't want to go back to Golden State. Now, I'm pretty sure the Warriors had a better record than them, so that series probably started over in Golden State. And I could be wrong. It just know that it'll be the most pressure any team has faced winning a game that they needed to get at home in quite some time, because it's different when the series has been back and forth. You lose Game 1, you win Game 2, the next team wins 2 in a row, then you win 2 in a row, and now it's Game 7. Or you win 1, they win 1, they win 2, you win 1, and now it's 3-2 going back to your place, and you got to win to force a Game 7, or vice versa. That team doesn't want to go back to your home court for Game 7, so they got to win Game 6. But that series was going back and forth. This was over. This is 3-0. No team has ever blown a 3-0 lead in NBA history. You don't want to be the first. Eventually, someone's going to blow a 3-0 lead, right? It happened in baseball with the Yankees and the Red Sox. No team had ever come back from a 3-0 deficit, and the Red Sox did it against their most hated rival. Eventually, it's going to happen. But if you're the Heat, you're like, it ain't us. You lose tonight, though, and now all the pressure's on you to win Game 6. You don't want to go back to Boston for Game 7. Trust me. Even though the Celtics haven't been great at home, you don't want to go back there for Game 7. Ask the 76ers. You don't do that. So, we'll see what happens in that game tonight. Big fight was finally made. I told you guys it was going to happen. Errol Spence Jr. and Terrence Bud Crawford have agreed to terms on a July 29th bout between the two. And you know what happened? I think what helped facilitate that deal was seeing two of the best fighters in the sport go at it. That's what we need more of. Seeing guys put aside their egos and saying, let's make the fight happen. We got a hell of a fight last Saturday night between Vasily Lomachenko and Devin Haney. And so I think, and all of those guys were right there ringside watching the fight. And so seeing that live and saying, hey, what are we waiting on? I want that same energy. I want that same kind of, you can't replicate that fighting a Joe Schmo, fighting a dude that you're supposed to knock out in 7 rounds. That can only be replicated when it's a big fight. I hear so many people talk of yesteryear of what Vegas was like with a major prize fight. I've yet to experience that. I want to experience that. A major prize fight in Vegas is nothing like it. I would love that environment. Looked like that was a place to be last Saturday night. I would love to be in attendance for a major fight. And I'm hoping that this starts a chain of guys not being afraid to fight one another, putting your ego aside and not, ducking guys because, again, as we know, styles make fights, and ducking guys because you don't want the smoke, you don't want a blemish on your record. To hell with all of that. The best should be fighting the best. You build up your rep, you beat all these gatekeepers so that you can put yourself in a position to earn big bucks by fighting the best of the best. And I feel like everything in life is cyclical, right? So it goes in cycles. And we've gone through this cycle where guys didn't want to fight each other. And I hope we're coming back around to now where guys are like, yo, I'm calling out, because we see it all the time. Guys call out the big fighter in their division. But if I can avoid you, I'm not looking to fight you. And that's why they came up with all these mandatory title defenses and this, that, and the third to force you to fight certain guys. But at the end of the day, I've watched, like, Canelo has fought good fighters, but I've also watched him, duck a lot of guys he could have been fighting to fight these clowns that he beats up on a routine basis to build his rep. But I'm like, you're not fighting nobody. And he's fought guys. He's fought Triple G multiple times. He fought Floyd Mayweather. But at the same time, I'm like, bro, you could have fought so many more guys. In the 80s, all of those dudes fought each other. All of those dudes fought. It was no ducking anybody, especially in the middleweight division. You weren't ducking anybody. You were going to fight Hagler. You were going to fight Hearns. You were going to fight Sugar Ray. You were going to fight Roberto Duran. You had to run the gamut. You had to. Anyway, hopefully we're getting back to that. So another major fight is coming down the pipeline this summer. So be on the lookout for that. And then I have to do this. This breaks my heart, but Tina Turner passed away yesterday. I told you guys, and I say this all the time, and I find it to be true. And, it's just one of those dumb sayings, but seems like it always comes to fruition. And usually it's even more. Like, death comes in threes. We hear that all the time. And obviously Jim Brown died late last week. Now Tina Turner's gone. And I got an eerie feeling somebody else is coming right around the corner of note, right? It's just crazy. She was 83 years old, one of the most iconic figures in, music, but, more specifically rock and roll. It's not often we associate a Black artist with rock and roll, but literally her, and Ike Turner really were huge in the rock and roll space and really help popularize the genre, honestly. At a time when it was taboo to shake your ass, Tina was out there shaking it better than anybody else in that little dress. And her whole situation spawned one of the greatest docu-movies we've ever seen. In What's Love Got to Do with It? I mean, Lawrence Fishburne's portrayal of Ike Turner is one of the greatest roles we've seen of someone portraying an actual figure. Oh, man, I mean, how many classic lines did we get from that movie, right? Anime, eat the cake now, anime. Eat the cake now. I mean, hey, you go. You can leave. But the name stays here. The name got my daddy blood on it. I mean, how many quotes did we get from that movie, man? Tina Turner was a legend. She was an icon. And she was one of the best, or as she termed, she was simply the best. Better than all the rest. May Tina Turner rest in paradise. 83 years young. So that takes me to our Gem Droppin Session. Today, let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie Tee double E. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. Miss Perry said, I don't need no help. Right. After he done smacked her down on the ground, right? Try to help her. I don't need no help. Hey, we could sit here and talk about all the lines from that movie. We would be here all day. We would be absolutely weak. All right. That was a good one. That was a good one, Miss Perry. Um, oh man. Made me lose my train of thought. So let's start with the rules. Remember last podcast, I said we're gonna keep an eye on all these rules that these owners are gonna be voting on and see what gets passed. They passed every damn thing over the week that has been so far. We were live when we found out that they passed the Thursday night flex scheduling. Okay, so that's the thing. We already talked about that. Then we were talking about the fair catch rule. I didn't think it was going to pass. These special teams coaches and players had made such a big deal out of it. I thought they were going to band together and ensure that this thing didn't pass through. And they're going to do the 1-year trial thing. If you remember, they did a similar thing with the field goals, the extra points rather, from the 33-yard extra point from the 18-yard or the 15-yard line. And then they ended up keeping that long term. They did the same thing with the overtime rule. They put it in effect for a year, and then they wanted to see if it was something that was feasible to move forward with. They did. And then also, most notably, they did it with the pass interference challenge, where you could challenge pass interference. And that was a 1-year trial, and it went horribly wrong. And they got rid of it after 1 year. All that was a knee-jerk reaction to the missed call in the Saints-Rams championship game. They wanted to appease Rams fans. They did that, or not Rams fans, rather, Saints fans. They did that for 1 year, and then they went back to the way things were. So they're going to try this fair catch kickoff thing, and I'm not a big fan of it. College had already adopted this rule. I tend to like to keep certain things separate. That's a college thing. I was looking at that fair catch rule as a college thing. Let that stay in college. Just like stopping the clock after every first down, that's a college thing. That's why the college games last 4.5 hours. I don't need that, trickling into the NFL. I don't need the college overtime where we get the ball at the 25-yard line, and that's garbage. That stay in college. I saw this fair catch rule as a college thing. Let that shit stay in college. And unfortunately, they chose to allow that to bleed into the NFL. We'll see how it goes. I'm hoping a maniacal bastard like Bill Belichick will find a way to abuse this shit and get it out of here. Somebody's going to analytically look at this and say, all right, how can we take it, man? Like, first of all, you're going to see some squib kicks. All right. Somebody's going to perfect a kick where they kick that bitch and it stops at like the 4. And you can't fair catch that, obviously, because it hit the ground. And that's going to cause some concussions, right? If it's a mad dash for the football, that shit's just on the ground and you running to get to it and you crashing into somebody, that's how you get a concussion. Like, this could have unintended consequences. I hope this is not college. This is why you can't just take what worked in college and say, well, it worked in college. Their concussion numbers went down because they're not game planning like they do in the NFL. It's different. The NFL will take any and every opportunity to seek an advantage and exploit that shit. Bill Belichick is staying up extra late at night trying to figure out, how can I take advantage of this new rule? He started the pop-up kick in the NFL. That's why they're having this fair catch rule, right? Because Belichick was like, nah, don't kick that bitch in the end zone. Kick it to the 5. Yeah, kick that to the 5. We got fiends running down there. They not getting to the 20. To hell with that. The 25 ain't happening. I'm waiting for somebody to exploit this shit and make it a problem so we can get rid of this. But we'll see what happens. Let's talk about some old dudes, man. You know why? I made me think about some old dudes. LeBron James is old, man. A lot of my guy Dylan Brooks caught a lot of flack for calling LeBron old, but he old, man. Shit, he old. However, LeBron's still a bad man, right? But he old. And you could tell it took everything out of him to play damn near 48 minutes in that game. They got eliminated and swept by the Denver Nuggets. Took almost everything he had left in the tank. And I've been watching him throughout the playoffs, and he old, man. Like, LeBron be trying, but he old, man. And Father Time is undefeated. He don't miss, okay? I don't give a damn what your genetics are. When Father Time starts tapping you on the shoulder and saying, hey, man, I'm going to give you another 30, bro, and then I got to come get you. Like, LeBron is at that point where Father Time's tapping him, and he's like, bro, I'm going to give you 1 or 2 more years max, and then we got to go, man. And I don't know how much more he got left in him, but I'm going to tell you what. LeBron to me is he's a drama king, right? Just like I feel like Aaron Rodgers is, where Aaron Rodgers was never retiring. I told you guys that, right? Like, is this the last time we've seen Aaron Rodgers in the field? He's walking off the field with his best friend in the league. And is this the last time we see Aaron Rodgers as he walks off the field with, what's his damn name? Randall Cobb, with his arm over Randall Cobb's shoulder. Is this the last time we see Aaron Rodgers on the football field? Rodgers has to go to a retreat. And after I emerge from this, what did he call it? Darkness retreat, or whatever the hell he called it, I will have an answer for you. Really? Really, guy? He was eating that shit up. He was never retiring. LeBron after the game, man, I don't know, man. I got a lot to think about. Really, guy? You're not going anywhere, man. You're playing next year. You've already made it abundantly clear that you want to play with your son. Nobody's ever done that in NBA history, and it will probably never, ever happen again. Assuming Bronny comes out after his freshman year, maybe he stays a second year if need be, you'll be playing with your son, and then you can hang it up. That's what he wants to do. Do something that no one's ever done, and probably no one else will ever be able to do. In saying that, Aaron Rodgers strains his calf at OTAs. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is old, man. Is he going to make it through the season? I get it. Look, man, it can happen to anybody. You know, football is one of those sports. I always feel like various body parts have this finite number of times, and you've heard me say this before, where you can cut, you can stop, you can plant before it says, all right, man, we got 6 more of these stops, and then I'm giving out on your ass. Just rupturing, you know. Some guys have more, numbers, that number is larger. Some guys have less, but there's a number. And, Achilles, all of that shit. And the longer you play, the shorter that number is. And I'm looking at Aaron Rodgers, and, as you get older, man, your body don't heal the way that it used to. I was having a laugh with my wife, right? Because, when you're getting old, and I'm getting old, man. And, you hate to admit that shit. But you see the signs. And you try to run through the stop sign. You see the red light. You're like, nah, that red light ain't for me. You try to run that shit. It was still yellow. Nah, bitch, that was a red light. You just ran that shit. I homeschool my son because he's 4, and he was supposed to be in pre-K, but we didn't like the way the school was treating my son. We was like, nah, we're not going for that shit. And if anybody that knows me, I don't play when it comes to my kids. I will struggle before I let my kids be a burden on anybody else. So I've been homeschooling him this entire time. And I sit on the floor with him when when we're doing our exercises, numbers, letters, shapes, colors, all that stuff, sight words. And my leg will just go to sleep. Like, bro, what are we doing here? Now I'm beating my leg up, trying to wake it up. Then when I get off the ground, my joints are aching, and, bones cracking and shit. I'm like, bro, I'm too old for this shit to be getting down on the floor with him. I need a chair. You know what I'm saying? I was laughing with my wife about that the other day. And so I bring it full circle because Aaron Rodgers' ass is old. So that's why he's straining a calf. Ain't nobody chasing him in OTAs. Ain't nobody touching him. Ain't nobody even getting close to him in OTAs. How you strain a calf muscle, my guy? He's old. Speaking of old, right? Adrian Peterson, my guy AD, says, hey, just so y'all know, I ain't retired. AD, man, stop. It's over, bro. And, I was talking to my buddy earlier today, and we shared a laugh because his career is turning into a joke now. Not in the sense of he won't be a Hall of Famer, this, that, and the third. But it's turning into one of those careers where you're going to forget about 4 or 5 stops for him because he's been so many places because he doesn't want to hang it up. He's like a boxer that needs money. And so they come back, i.e. Evander Holyfield, where you're like, bro, come on, Evander. This shit is painful, bro. Stop. But Evander need the money. He got 19 kids. A bunch of failed investments, a big house you couldn't afford here, another big house you couldn't afford there, and now you need bread. He made a lot of poor choices with his finances throughout his career because this is the problem with a lot of dudes. The money's coming in and they don't expect it to ever end. So they just keep spending, and then eventually, especially in NFL, where it stands for not for long, and I don't give a shit how good you are. Like, you can't just be spending just to be spending. Not in the NFL. You can spend in the NBA and the MLB where these are fully guaranteed contracts. If you sign for a $400 million contract, you getting $400 million now. Wherever you playing, if they got state tax, yeah, Uncle Sam's going to dip his hand in there and get his. But at the end of the day, you technically, you getting your 400 before taxes, obviously. Then after taxes, it might be like 260. Right? Or whatever the case may be. But that ain't the case for NFL players. You sign $100 million contract, you're not getting $100 million, bro. Whatever the guarantees in that deal are, that's what you're going to see. You're not getting, you might sign $100 million contract, but $68 million is guaranteed. That's what you're getting is 68. And know that you might not get another one of those type of contracts, by the way. These NBA dudes, they get 2-3 of these $100 million contracts, right? So they good. They can blow through the first one. Shaq was like, yo, I got my first contract. I blew through that joint. You know what I'm saying? I spent all that. And his agent was like, bro, I hope you know you spent your entire, first whatever. And he was like, damn, really? But he had like 16 more of them joints coming. It's to the point now where Shaq's like, I haven't even touched a game check in ages. I got all this endorsement money coming. I haven't touched a game check in I don't know how long, But I'm like, AD, bro, it's over. It's too many young boys. You play a position that is no country for old men. Why are you still hanging on? I just hope we don't see this man playing in the XFL or USFL or no nonsense like that. Like he that hurt and hard up for him. I think his ego is too big for him to allow him to do some shit like that. But hey, money will make you do some strange things. Like, I challenge you. I'm going to throw some teams out there for you. Did you know Adrian Peterson played for the New Orleans Saints? Did you know that? How about the Seattle Seahawks? Did you know that one? Did you remember that one? You probably remember he played for the Lions, though, right? How about the Seattle Seahawks? You remember that? Don't tell me you forgot about the Tennessee Titans when he suited up for them. Like, that shit is comical, right? He played for all of those teams. It's kind of like T.O., right? Where you go, man, T.O. had some years, boy. 49ers, Eagles, Cowboys. Yeah, that shit was crazy. Then you go, he played for Buffalo Bills, right? You're like, Buffalo? I forgot about. He played for Cincinnati, right? The Bengals? Yeah, he was with Ocho. You don't remember that? Nah, I don't really remember that. What about the time he played for Seattle? You like, come on, man, you bullshit me now. Yeah, nah. He never made it to the regular season. He was in camp with him though. It be like that where you go, bro. How many stops did you have at the end of your career? Let this shit go. You turn into Elsa. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go, bro. It's over. It's over, man. I said the same thing to Matt Ryan. Matt was like, "Hey, if the right situation come up, hey, I'm still. Hey, I said, Matt. I tapped him. I said, Matt, mm-mm. Just go ahead and do your little thing at CBS Sports, bro. It's over. You were terrible last year. It's over. Yeah, you don't get the Phillip Rivers treatment. You know when Phillip Rivers was like, look, if it's the right situation, I'm coaching high school ball, but I'm ready. Now it's got to be a situation where I can win a chip. But I'm ready, y'all. Hit my line. And people were receptive to that. You know why? Because in his last year, he took the Indianapolis Colts to the playoffs and was within a split hair of going to Buffalo and upsetting those boys in Wild Card Weekend. That's not what your ending looked like, Matt. Okay. You don't get to tell teams, hey, the right situation. No, bro. You're done. Okay. Old guys, you're done. Okay. Let the young boys have it, man. Shit's over. All right. Last thing. Patriots lose 2 OTAs for violating specific rules of the offseason. You see this every year where teams get slapped on the wrist. The Ravens have been slapped on the wrist, I feel like multiple times. Washington got slapped on the wrist last year. You see this, a little bit too much contact. I just always want to know, how does the league find this shit out? How do they find out? Did somebody go to them after they get cut like, yo, man, they was hitting at practice, bro? Like, how do they find out? Is there an official there at every single team's practice from the league office that, notifies them of what's going on to make sure that they didn't overstep hours that are in the CBA and things how do you legislate that you can't talk football until the start of mini camp? If I got my player's number, I can call them up. Like, how are you going to find out that we were talking ball? Right? How do they find these things out? A little bit too physical at practice. How do you find that out? I'm really interested to know. Anyway, Jay Willard says snitches. Clearly, somebody snitching. Now, the question is who? Who, my guy? That's what I want to know. Who's snitching? I don't know. Anyway, speaking of the Patriots, perfect segue as we transition into memory lane, as we go ahead and flash back, way back into time. Back down memory lane on the Louie Tee Network podcast. This is when the music, when, I used to do this thing, not live, the music would kick in and it would just be real mellow. Doom, 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 doom. So I want to go back to 2007 and I want to take a look at the undefeated season for the New England Patriots, because I don't think it's ever going to happen again. They went 16-0 in the regular season, won their first 2 playoff games before losing in the Super Bowl. Thank God the New York Giants got it done. 17-14. One of the biggest upsets that we've seen in the NFL in recent memory. Now, it's amazing because this Patriots team was dominant, right? So I'm just looking at their score catalog real quick. How many times, I want y'all to guess, how many times did the Patriots score 38 or more points in 2007? Leave it in the comment section real quick. How many times in 2007, in their undefeated regular season, did the Patriots score 38 or more points? I'm gonna be looking from that. And man, there's some ass whoopings. I mean, some old school, good old fashioned, passionate, getting your shoes coat and hat tooking ass whoopings that they handed out in this season. I mean, my Washington Redskins caught a 52-7 beatdown. I remember Chris Cooley caught the only touchdown. This had to be with like 4 minutes left in garbage time. They had us 52-0. Chris Cooley caught like a 5-yard out and turned it up and scored like a 6-yard touchdown. They were kicking our ass. It was bad. Bad, I tell you. How many, y'all? Kareem Mitchell says 9. Jay Willard says 7. Miss Perry says 7. Darnell Kelly, 6. Humble King, 9. Y'all are on it, man. Y'all right in that vicinity. Let me count one more time just to make sure I'm right. 8 times. 8 times. In a 16-game schedule, they scored 38 or more points. 8 times. How many times did they score 48 or more? Of those 8 38 or more games, how many of them were 48 or more? Leave that in the comment section. Leave that in the comment section. How many of those games were 48 or more points? Do you know how hard it is to score 48 points in an NFL game? Leave that in the comment section. Jay Willard says half. Kareem Mitchell says half, 4. Miss Perry says half, 4. Jay Willard. No, leave it where you had it, Jay Willard, at half, at 4. Darnell Kelly says half with 4. It was half. 4 of them things. All right. So they beat the Jets in week 1, 38-14. They beat the Chargers the following week, same score, 38-14. They beat the Buffalo Bills in week 3, 38-7. They beat the Cincinnati Bengals 34-13. The Browns 34-17. They beat the Cowboys 48-27. They beat the Dolphins 49-28. They beat the Redskins 52-7. They beat the Colts 24-20. They beat the Bills 56-10. They beat the Eagles 31-28. The Ravens 27-24. The Steelers 34-13. The Jets 20-10. The Dolphins 28-7. And I remember this game very vividly. Their week 17 game. They didn't need it, but they played their starters in the pursuit of perfection. And I remember the Giants having those boys on the ropes, and Randy Moss catching a late touchdown down the sidelines to give them a 38-35 victory over the G-Men. And that was on a Saturday night. I remember that game very vividly. They were killing teams, man. Killing teams in the regular season. And it's crazy because they weren't all that impressive in the playoffs. Like, they weren't killing teams in the playoffs. 31-20 against Jacksonville, 21-12 against the Chargers in the divisional round, or the AFC Championship game, rather. That was Phillip Rivers, if you recall, on one ACL. Remember, he had torn his ACL in wild card weekend, went on the road, I believe, in the divisional round, won, and then ended up losing to Brady in the championship game, 21-12. So anyway, that's let's take a look at their roster. Hold on a second. Anyway, let's take a look at their roster. I want to go and look at that, man. I was just happened to be, perusing the web, and I just ran into the 07 page. I was like, I want to talk about them real quick. So let's take a look at their roster now. This team, man, I tell you, it's amazing that they went 16-0. They're not trash by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't know if this is the group you think would have done what they ultimately did. All right. Hold on. I think somebody is at my door. All right. Where is my ring? Here it is. Who the hell is at the door? Okay, no, we're not answering that. All right. So obviously Tom Brady, he was 30 years of age at that point, 7 years into the game. Kevin Falk, I always term him the original Brady back. All right, Kevin Falk, 31 years old at this time. He was fantastic as a pass catcher, man. Obviously, Randy Moss, 30 years old, 9 years in the game. This year in New England revitalized his career. He went off. 98 catches, 1,493 yards, 23 touchdowns. Brady went for 4,806 yards, 50 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. Wes Welker, man, 112 catches for 1,175 yards, 8 touchdowns. I mean, that little trio there of Falk, Moss, and Welker was nasty, but Kyle Brady at tight end doesn't move the needle. Benjamin Watson was solid, 36 catches, 389, 6 touchdowns. Had a solid offensive line, Matt Light, Logan Mankins, Dan Copen, Steve Neal, Nick Kazzer. All right, this is where it gets interesting, looking at their defense. Like, this doesn't strike me as a Super Bowl caliber defense, but Ty Warren at left defensive end, Vince Wilfork, who is a Hall of Fame type of player, at nose tackle, Jarvis Green at the other defensive end. So that line doesn't really move the needle for me outside of Vince Wilfork. Mike Vrabel at one outside backer, Roosevelt Colvin at the other outside backer, the two inside backers, Adelius Thomas, who was really good in his own right, and Teddy Bruschi, right? And we know what Teddy Bruschi was in his career. Vrabel had 12 and a half sacks that season. Asante Samuel was at one cornerback spot. He killed it that year. 6 interceptions on the season for him that year. Ellis Hobbs was at the other cornerback spot, starting opposite of him. Rodney Harrison was at safety, along with James Sanders. So, I mean, it was a solid group, right? Asante did drop the pick that would have clinched the perfect season. So those 6 interceptions are nice, but I'm pretty sure most of them probably remember, and most people remember the one that he didn't catch, as opposed to the ones that he did catch. Let's go to the bench and see what they got on the bench. So Matt Cassell was on that bench. Lawrence Moroney, that's a nice little name from the past, was on that bench. Heath Evans, who worked for NFL Network and also was a big part of the New Orleans Saints, I think when they won the Super Bowl, was on that team as well as a fullback. Let's look at some of these receivers, because I always kill the Patriots for having trash receivers. They never did a really good job of drafting guys. So they had Kelly Washington on this team at receiver. You guys probably don't remember Kelly Washington. This was my prime Madden playing days still. So I know all of these dudes, right? Kelly Washington went to the University of Tennessee, was a bigger target at receiver, could run a little bit. Same with Dante Stallworth, was another Tennessee volunteer in those days. He was actually good at that point of his career. Yeah, Randy Moss. Chad Jackson was a first-round pick of the New England Patriots. Boy, did he suck ass. Out of Florida. They just could never pick receivers. I always joke about guys like Chad Jackson, and Bethel Johnson, even though Bethel Johnson was solid. Jabbar Gaffney was on this team as well. Troy Brown was another receiver. So they had some solid receivers. Gaffney was really solid. Brown was really solid. Stallworth was really solid, along with Wes Welker and Randy Moss. That's a good little group there. Nothing really to write home about it. Tight end Kyle Brady, Marcellus Rivers, Steven Spock, David Thomas, and Ben Watson. Really, Watson and Brady were probably the 2 guys that got the most run on that team. Let's look at some of the defenders, see if there's any names that stand out here. I mean, Richard Seymour, wasn't the starter, but he was still Richard Seymour, right? This was right around when they were about to trade him to the Raiders. I could have sworn that Moss was in that. No, I think they fleeced. That was a separate deal where they fleeced the Raiders for washed up Richard Seymour. See who else was on this defense. Junior Seau was on this defense, and I think he was playing some real good ball still too. So that's another name. Chad Brown is another name. He was 37 years old. at the time. Junior Seau was 38 during this season, and they were playing, and both of them, I think, played some really good football. Mike Vrabel, I told you he had 12 and a half sacks. He was 32 during that Super Bowl year, or undefeated season, rather. Teddy Bruschi was 34. Roosevelt Colvin was 30. So this was an older team. As you can see, Randy, I already talked about Randy was 30. Tom was 30. Kevin Falk was 31. I think I mentioned that already as well. So, they had some young guys mixed in. Obviously, Vince Wilfork was only 26 years old. So he was probably in his third year or so in the league. And they got some veterans up here for sure. Rodney Harrison was 35. Eugene Wilson, I didn't even know he was on this team, 27 years old. Brandon Merriweather, that's a young Brandon Merriweather right there. That's 23-year-old Brandon Merriweather. That might be rookie year, Brandon Merriweather. Let me see. See if this is his rookie season. Yeah, that's rookie season Brandon Merriweather. So, yeah. Stephen Gostkowski was a second-year player. Turned out to be a really good kicker for them. Adalius Thomas was 30 on this team. So, yeah, man. I mean, it was a solid roster. It doesn't strike me as a 16-0 roster, but, you add Tom Brady into the mix, sprinkle in some prime Randy Moss, and voila, 16-0. So, anyway, I digress. 2007 Patriots, 16-0. Will we ever see another undefeated regular season? We've come close. If Jalen Hurts doesn't get hurt last year, the Eagles probably go 15-1. They probably beat the Cowboys. They probably beat the New Orleans Saints late in the season if Hurts plays and doesn't get hurt. The only game they legitimately lost during the regular season last year was against Washington. So we've had some teams come close. Will we ever see an undefeated entire season, not just a regular season? Man, it's so hard to do in the NFL, man. It's hard to do. Because all you got to do is have one bad game, whether it's in the regular season or the postseason, one game where you don't have your A game, you don't have your fastball, and the other team makes just enough plays. You can go home, or you can take an L. Anyway, I digress. All right, let's go ahead and transition to the next segment, which is the final segment of the show, and story time with your man Louie Tee, or as I like to say, story time with Uncle T. Everybody gather around. I got a story to tell. Before I do that, though, I do have a super chat. I'm gonna go ahead and knock this one out. It's from Mr. Pink. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Mr. Pink, who writes, "Hey Lou, Rio had our team president for an interview the other day. Do you have any contacts, plans to host players, coaches in a future episode NHL?" I don't. I saw he had Jason Wright, and he had already established a relationship with Jason Wright because he's a season ticket holder. Remember, Rio was in the video, right, when they were talking about the new team name, right? Remember, Rio was in that video that the team put out. So that's when he met Jason Wright, established a relationship with him. I think he's had Julie Donaldson on his channel before, so he's got a relationship with some people there. I do not, however. And I know I need to be better in that regard because I don't desire for that stuff. I don't clamor to be I'm not clout chasing. I'm not looking, but I know you guys want that. You want interviews with players and people like that. And so I can't be selfish and want to just kind of stay in my little bubble. I got to venture out and do those things. So I'm planning on doing that. I got to be better in that regard, but I don't seek that stuff. I'm not moved by somebody talking to a player or, someone that works for the team. That doesn't move me, but it's not about me. And that's what I have to take into consideration. So, Mr. Pink, stand up. You are the newest member of the MOBB. Mob, y'all know what to do. Welcome Mr. Pink with some open arms. Show him what it's like to be a member of the MOBB. Glad to have you on board, Mr. Pink. Looking forward to chopping it up with you. I really enjoyed chopping it up with you and looking forward to doing more of it as a member of the squad. Welcome home. Good to have you on board. So let's get to story time. I got one for y'all today, man. So the year was 1996. And at that time, I was the absolute biggest wrestling fan. That's when it was the WWF. Favorite wrestler, for those of you who don't know, and I think I've told you guys this already. I know I have, because he passed away. And I think I know I told you, not I think, I know I told you that Scott Hall was my favorite wrestler. I loved him when he was Razor Ramon. More so than when he was Scott Hall, but even when he was Scott Hall, he was still dope when he went to WCW as a part of the NWO. But I was a massive wrestling fan in those days. I would beg, me and my sister, I roped my sister into my foolishness. We would beg my dad to buy pay-per-views, not just the big ones, not just SummerSlam in August or WrestleMania in March or Survivor Series in November. I knew all of them. The months that they happened, I could tell you that in January, it was Royal Rumble, right? I was a fiend, okay? A fiend. King of the Ring was in February, right? Or actually, that was June, if I'm not mistaken. King of the Ring was in June. And we would even beg for the In Your House. That in those days, anyone not major, so if it wasn't SummerSlam in August, WrestleMania in March, Royal Rumble in January, King of the Ring in June, Survivor Series in November, then it was In Your House. That's what the pay-per-view was called, and it would have a theme, but it would be In Your House, right? We would beg them for the $49.95, the $39.95 for the pay-per-view. And we used to record them. I used to record them. I had a bunch of VHSs, right? I would record the hell out of those joints and rewind them and watch. Gold dust. Anyway, Shawn Michaels was my boy. He was the champ around that time. And you had Undertaker, all those guys. Ahmed Johnson with the, what was his finisher called? The the Pearl River Plunge, right? He was so trash. But there was this new wrestler back in 96, this blue blood by the name of Hunter Hearst Helmsley, right? And this was the thing that was so fun back in the days. Back in the days, finishers were so trash, but they were easy to do, right? Like, how are you losing to somebody because of a big boot and then a leg drop? Oh my God, he hit him with a boot. He falls down, and now I'm going to run to the ropes, come off the ropes, and I'm going to hit you with this leg drop. 1, 2, 3. Oh, he got him with the leg drop. You could get to the top rope and put your arms straight in the air and then come down with the Macho Man elbow drop from the top rope. That was an easy one to do, right? Just stand on the couch. Come off the couch on the top rope. Bow. As times changed and progressed, though, these moves got harder to do. They were picking guys up. Diesel comes in here. He's jacked. It was easy to do sweet chin music. All I got to do is super kick somebody, right? That's an easy one. I could do the sharpshooter. I knew how to do the figure 4, right? I could do the Boston Crab. Hell, I could even do a perfect plex. I perfected that. I could do that. But then shit got hard, man. They started picking dudes up. Diesel started jackknifing folks and Razor wanted to do the Razor's Edge. You got to pick dudes up. That's a lot harder, man. You know? But then as that era kind of went away and we ushered in these new guys, then it started to get easy again. Diamond cutters and stunners. And then there was the Pedigree. Yeah, the Pedigree. So one of the things that come with being a wrestling fan is you want to do the moves. You want to wrestle, right? You want to reenact what you see on TV. And they would always tell you, don't try this at home. And I always liken that reference to Dumb and Dumber, one of my favorite movies, Dumb and Dumber. And in the movie, Harry was telling Lloyd a story about why his relationship with Freda Felcher didn't work. And he says, she said I wasn't listening to her or something. He said, I wasn't paying attention. He said, but you know what? Chaps my ass. So I think she was seeing somebody else. He didn't know that somebody else was his boy. But it was the irony of, she said I never listened to her, but I don't know what she was talking about. I wasn't paying attention, right? And so, in those days, the WWF would put out these videos where they would say, don't try this at home. But they never really told you why you shouldn't try this at home. Or they actually did, and I just wasn't listening to that part. I think that's what it was. They went on about some spiel about these are trained professionals, blah, 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 whatever. That's not going to stop me from dressing in all black and having somebody stand by the light switch and flick them on and off and pretend like I'm the Undertaker coming out. All right. That's not going to stop me from, running out there with a little vest on, with gel in my hair and a toothpick and acting like I'm Razor Ramon. That's not going to stop me from trying to pick somebody up to powerbomb them. Okay? Thanks, but no thanks. So, obviously, we thought we were these guys. So, we're wrestling at one of my buddies' houses, right? And it was funny. I'm not as tight with these two dudes in particular anymore as I used to be. We were aces back in the day, though. Both of these dudes were with me. And one of the dudes that, as Matt, the guy that actually performed the move, we were talking about this like, I'd say a month and a half ago. It just was random. We were on Messenger. He hit me up and we were reminiscing on old times, and I brought it up. And it's funny now. It shit wasn't funny then. Okay. So we're wrestling at his house. He put down a mattress, on the ground, and, his mom, bless her heart, she never knew what the hell we were doing downstairs. She was always upstairs. So we bring a mattress downstairs. We took all the cushions off the couch and we put all this shit on the ground, and we're duking it out, man. We're reenacting what we see on TV. And we're wrestling. And my buddy, I'm going to call him M, decides he wants the Pedigree Q. So one thing about wrestling moves is if you don't know what you're doing, some of them can be very, very dangerous. Okay. Like, these guys are trained professionals. When they punch somebody, they don't actually punch them, right? They're really good actors. They step on the ground really hard, and the guy flicks his head back, and it looks like really vicious. when Stone Cold performs a stunner, he's not actually taking someone's neck and chin and cramming it on his shoulder, right? That guy's knee hits the ground, right, as he's stunning him, and his neck and chin never actually make contact with Stone Cold's shoulder, right? But if you aren't paying attention and you don't know this, ouch, right? Ouch. A pile driver, that guy's head is never supposed to actually hit the ground. Stone Cold, when he pile drived Owen Hart and broke his neck, yeah, if you don't do it right, it could go really wrong. So then there's this move called the pedigree. Triple H, right? Yeah. So M decides he wants the pedigree Q. I'm all for it. Like, it ain't me, right? Go for it. You know, in this case, I'm the referee now. So M lines him up, kicks him in his stomach first. You gotta start with the kick to the stomach, right? To get the guy to bend down, right? And then he steps on his head, steps over his head, puts both of his arms in the little hook. Now he's got him hooked up for it. And I knew this was going horribly wrong when I saw the force with M picked up Q, because on a pedigree, it's supposed to be smooth. There's no picking up in a pedigree. It's just you jumping up straight in the air and coming straight down. And if anything goes wrong, maybe a nose gets broken, right? But when a guy gets pedigree, his body's supposed to be flat like this. When M did it, his body was like this. Uh-oh. That's not good. And what ensued was probably the most nerve-wracking 30 minutes of my life. As M picks up Q and then proceeds to drop him on his head and neck, and then rolls him over and pins him, and me like a dummy. 1, 2, 3, ding, ding, ding. M gets up, I raise his hand, and we look down at Q, and Q's not moving. That's odd. Hey, Q, man, the match over, man. Get up. One of the scariest things I've ever seen in my life is another man crying, tears flowing from his face, as he says, I can't feel my I can't feel my legs. Again, this was not funny in 1996. He says, I can't feel my legs. And we're like, wait, what do you mean you can't feel your legs? Get up, man. Stop playing. This man is crying, real tears, and he's not moving. I look at M looks at me, and there is the most panic I've ever seen in another human being's face. I don't know what I look like. I know what I felt like in the moment. Oh my God, we're going to jail. We're going to jail. We just killed Q, right? We just paralyzed Q. Now, in my mind, I'm like, we didn't do anything. I didn't do that. But you can't do that, right? In his time of need, I can't leave M there to fend for himself. This man is laying there for like 10 minutes. No movements in any of it. He isn't moving. His arms aren't moving. His legs aren't moving. None of his extremities. We can't go upstairs and tell his mom. Like, we don't know what to do. And so he's just laying there. We don't want to move him. We don't know what's wrong, but we don't want to get him help. We ain't shit. I know. I'm sorry, bro. I was 10. What do you want me to do? Okay. At this point, I'm thinking about self. Q's on the ground. Maybe he'll never walk again. I'm thinking about me. What's going to happen to me? Okay. I'm 10. All right. So we talk to him. We say, hey, calm down. It's going to be okay. We don't know if it's going to be okay or not. Me and M take a little powwow and we're like, bro, I'm like, I think we should tell your mom. We probably need to call the paramedics, man. He's like, no, man. He going to be all right. And that's when you could tell the difference between the person that committed the act and the person that was going to try to wash his hands clean of the situation. I'm like, hey, we should involve others. And the person that actually did it is like, nah, we ain't doing that shit. He gonna be all right. He gonna be all right. So he's like, man, we just need to go over there and we need to help him. I'm like, what we supposed to do? You don't have no medical training. I don't have no medical. What we supposed to do? He's like, man, tickle his feet or something. The man can't feel his feet. What is tickling his feet gonna do? What, you tickle his feet and all of his extremities just start working again? Oh, that's funny. Ha ha. What's tickling his feet gonna do? So we start doing reflex shit, hitting his kneecap. Nothing happened. We was like, man, all right, try to shake your hands, man. Try to shake your arms. And then he started to be able to shake his arms a little bit. Like he got a little movement in his arms a little bit, right? Shake your hands. He started to be able to shake his hands. Hey, can you feel your legs? He's like, I think so. A little bit. I said, all right, well, wiggle your toes. And he was able to move his feet a little bit. Not necessarily wiggle his toes, but he was able to move his feet a little bit. I was like, uh-oh, we cooking. We starting to cook with a little bit of gasoline here, man. So he continued to lay there. Eventually, we were able to help him sit up. And then we was like, all right, I'm going to count to 3. We're going to lift you up. We need you to stand. And we counted to 3. And he was like, I'm not ready yet. Okay. Not ready yet. Counted to 3 again. He's like, all right, I think I'm ready. 1, 2, 3. We lifted him up. We held him. And he was like, all right, I think I'm good. And he collapsed. But in collapsing, he moved his legs. And so we knew his legs still worked. It was the biggest sigh of relief I think I had ever had in my life. I looked at M's face and the weight of the world lifted off of his shoulders. That was the last time that I acted as if I was a WWF superstar. Okay. That was it. You don't have to show me but one time that this can end bad for you. And it wasn't even me. And it's funny, looking back on this thing over 20 years later, right? And I'm talking to M, right? We're going back and forth in Messenger. And he's like, bro, I thought we was going to jail. I was like, you? Shit, I thought I was going to jail. He's like, and Q had strict parents, right? His dad was a military guy. And he was like, man, his parents weren't going to play. They was going to press charges on our ass. I was like, they was going to press charges on. I didn't tell him this, but I was thinking this. They was going to press charges on your ass, not me, because me and Q were like this. M and Q were cool, but they weren't like this. Me and Q were like this at that time. Like, I knew him since the 2nd grade. So, and being that I wasn't the one that committed the act, I felt like I'm gonna be straight. But when you're an accessory, you still feel like, and I've watched enough First 48 to know you don't got to pull the trigger to get to be convicted of murder or to be on trial, right? To be charged with 1st-degree murder. You don't have to pull the trigger. Just be there. All right. Just be there. And you can catch a charge. So by me being there and being a referee, I might have got some of the smoke too. Scary times, man. Real scary hours, man. Some real spooky shit. Kids, don't try wrestling moves at home. All right, leave that shit for the professionals. Anyway, I digress. It was some scary times, man, but it was fun while it lasted, but never again. That was the last time I participated in any wrestling activities. I was just gonna watch from the sidelines after that. 30 minutes, man. This brother was down. And when somebody tells you, I can't feel my legs, and he's crying, that's some scary shit. Anyway, that's story time with me, your man, Louie Tee. And I see Mr. Pink says we made our own belts out of paper. So what we did was we took a real leather belt and then we cut out the middle part, right? So we cut out a piece of paper and we made it look like the WWF championship belt, colored it, and then pasted it to the black belt. So it was whack. And all we had to do was wait like maybe 2 or 3 years later, and then the WWF started selling like fake belts, right? The little plastic joints. But that was before our time. We didn't have the luxury of just going to the store, spending $20 and getting an actual strap. So we had to make them, and they were whack. But hey, what can you do? Miss Perry says, imagine if y'all was outside with it. If we were outside, he would have been paralyzed. There's no doubt about it. That was the worst pedigree I shouldn't say that. The thumbnail that I have is the worst pedigree. I don't know if you guys know who Marty Garner is, but that thumbnail that I have of Triple H in '96, pedigree, Marty Garner. So back in those days, if you were a big wrestling fan, then you know what jobbers are. Jobbers were guys that they would put the guys that they were trying to raise up the ranks, their headliners, so to speak, they would put them against jobbers. One of my favorite ones was the Brooklyn Brawler, right? Holes in his shirt, just a clown ass dude. And they'd beat these dudes in like 15 seconds, depending on who you were. Like Diesel would literally throw a guy against the ropes, give him a big boot, pick him up, jackknife him, and pin him in like 30 seconds, right? Aldo Montoya was another fun jobber, right? There were certain dudes, and then there were other guys that were just Joe Schmoes, and they would just have their regular name. They get beat up, get pinned, and they keep it pushing. So in '96, the WWF was pushing Triple H. Hunter Hearst Helmsley. He was a blue blood, right? And they were pushing him and his angle and trying to get him to be a bigger name in the sport. And so he's fighting the jobber, and he gets a little aggressive with his pedigree. And you see the thumbnail of how that pedigree ended. I think he broke that guy's neck. All right. Like a pedigree. There was this move that came some years later. I don't know if you remember. It was this wrestler called Grendel. And he was this gothic wrestler. He was like a vampire. He had the little sharp fangs. And he would come with this little goblet, and he would drink from it. His tongue was red. And his finisher, I forgot what it was called, but I think it was called the Impaler, some shit like that. And he would pick you up, and it was like in a form of a DDT, but he would pick you up and then just fall straight back with you, right? Vicious shit. Do that wrong, and it's game over, right? Same thing with a DDT. Like, I used to love Arn Anderson. And, you know, the beauty of watching Arn Anderson do it was he would tell the wrestler when he was going to, you know, DDT them he would tap them twice. I always wondered why he would do that. I just used to do it when I would do the DDT. I would just tap him just because I saw Arn Anderson Double A do it, right? But he was telling them when he tapped them, hey, I'm about to DDT you. Brace yourself. Make sure your knee hits the ground. Make sure your head doesn't, you know, all the shit that they need to know so that they don't injure themselves, right? You do a DDT wrong, it's over, right? It's like certain moves, like don't do that shit. Don't do a pile driver because you're probably not gonna do the shit right. And it's almost no way that somebody's not significantly injured if you do a pile driver and don't do it right. You know what I'm saying? Same with a DDT and that impaler and a pedigree. Like, if you do the shit wrong, if you pick that person up at all and their body isn't flat, right? Straight across. Not vertically, horizontally, straight across. If their body isn't parallel to the ground, something bad is about to happen. So, and with a pedigree, like when Triple H does it, his knees hit the ground. That person's face never touches the mat. But not in the case of Marty Garner, right? Sheesh. Not in the case of my guy Q. Ouch. Anyway, that was the name. Oh, no, yeah. Viscera was King Mabel. So, you know, you gotta love how they repackaged wrestling. You know what? We'll save that for another podcast. Okay. That's one of the things I used to love is how they would repackage wrestlers. Like, Viscera was King Mabel before that. That's how I knew Viscera was King Mabel, right? Like Papa Shango was Kama, right? Who was later on, what was the pimp's name? The Godfather, right? That's the same person. Papa Shango, Kama, and the Godfather are the same guy. I don't know if you remember Isaac Yankum's DDS. He was a dentist. It was one of the stupidest angles that the WWF came up with. That's Kane, right? That was the original Kane. So it's just amazing how they repackage wrestlers. Like Stone Cold, before he became Stone Cold Steve Austin, he was the ringmaster. You guys remember that when he was first brought in by Ted DiBiase? He was the ringmaster. Anyway, we could do this all day. I digress. Y'all have a great weekend. You know I will. And you guys take care. And we'll be back on Tuesday, not Monday. Tuesday on the other side of the weekend, on the other side of Memorial Day. And I just got confirmation from the fellas that we're all systems go for the Super Friends stream on that Tuesday, May the 30th at 8 p.m. So you'll be getting a promo for that over the weekend to remind you to lock us into your calendar. I'm letting y'all know right now. I'm going to need y'all because I'm talking cold, hard cash. Cash money on that stream. All right. I might go a little bit too far. So I'm going to need y'all to have my back. All right. So put that down in the calendar. Hopefully, I will see you guys next week. Anyway, enjoy. Hold on. Got a super chat. Sorry. Door Gunner. Sorry. Door Gunner. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Writes, glad Lou isn't a Seth Rollins fan out here curb stomping his boys, out here trying to figure out where he's to dispose of the body. Nah, we ain't out here doing that kind of foolishness, man. But yeah, look, there was some decisions to be made there, man. When he was lying there motionless, you know, like M wasn't trying to get help. I'm like, hey, we could be making a really big mistake here, not getting him some help. But I might have been the same way if I was on the hook for that. Because in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I can get help because technically I didn't do it. So it changes things when you're the culprit. So anyway, Door Gunner, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB as well. Who writes, Commanders are the jobbers of the NFL, Lou. LOL. Yeah, it felt like that for a little while. If not necessarily the NFL, but the NFC East at times, it feels like we're the jobbers of the NFC East. It definitely felt that way in 2019 when we got swept by the entire division. How many games did we win in 2021 in the division? Swept by Dallas, right? Swept by the Eagles in 2021. And I think the Giants were the only team we beat in the division. So it can feel like that sometimes, for sure. Door Gunner, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Door Gunner, writes, I got your back Tuesday, unlike you to your boy. Look, man, I never threw him under the bus, okay? I stuck by his side the entire time. I supported every decision he made, okay? I tickled feet. I hit kneecaps, checking for reflexes. I didn't go get his mom. I could have bitched up, okay? I had his back, all right? Don't be making me sound like I'm some bitch here, okay? I did my part. Just know that if shit had went down, I was going to distance myself. But we never got to that point, okay? Anyway, you're not going to make me feel bad. I did what I was supposed to do, all right? Anyway, I digress. You guys, have a good weekend. Take care. And I'll see you guys next time. Man, you guys are some idiots, I swear. Have a good one, man. The Louie Tee Network is powered by Music Head University. Music Heads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.